not able to, or at least at present, don't claim the or receive the exemption. Do we know what percentage of the facility we're discussing is dedicated to those dementia patients, and maybe a level of care above what the other providers have? All of it is dementia care?
As far as I know, yeah.
That would be something that I probably want clarification on, but I had originally understood from previous coverage of the facility that only percentage was, but if that's not the case, certainly that's something to consider for the level of care. But it would be my question of, is it the entire facility that is that level of care? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just so you know kind of what we're considering here, an exemption for this particular property is an exemption of about $28,000. And so, to me, that's a substantial amount of money. Because it's with any one of the projects we've been talking about recently, even one that we talked about seeding as far as the signage goes. So we're talking about a reasonable amount of money here. Good Samaritan, of course, did provide in their application information that I think is important for us to know. Good Samaritan is an enormous company. It's based in Edmonton. It has over 30 projects, like this one, in Alberta and BC, and 14 more projects that are currently under construction. Now, some of these, I think it is a map as far as exemption goes. I think Walmart is presently phasing out their exemption for a very similar facility. The property and equipment that's owned by this nonprofit society is $217 million. They have an endowment fund of almost $15 million. So the amount of revenues just for the Salmon Arm facility alone is about $4.3 million. And as a figure, about $3.5 million of that is government funded. That means for the provincial government. So exempting $28,000 in tax dollars for us from the city, to me, for a non-profit society that has an enormous budget and is in competition with private care facilities that are not subsidized, does not make sense. So that would be my rationale for removing exemption.
Councillor Cannon.
Oh, I thought you said Cannon.
Okay.
Well, my final rebuttal would be that if we cut it out here at this table, and we'll come back to the citizen who goes in there, because the costs are regulated by their budget costs. So I, just want council to be aware of that as well. That probably they're going to reflect it somehow if it doesn't, according to the budget.
Councillor Larson.
Okay. That's the buzzers. New technology. I'm going to vote in favor of this. I think that both Councillor Cantwell and Councillor Harrison have both raised good points. The one thing I see is that yes, the taxes will be included in the Good Samaritans. This motion passes. Is also included in the private facility one that we talk about right here is the Shush, and those are obviously, if not already passed to the residents. So I think that for us to create a level playing field for this sort of business environment is only fair, and so I'll be voting in favor.
Anything further? Councillor Cannon.
I tend to agree with Councillor Harrison. I think he has some very good points when you look at it. I've often thought that it is competing with other facilities, and we have more facilities coming into town. I don't know, it's a tough one. Like when we met with the people from Good Samaritans, they had some good points when we asked them different questions about it, but there is other communities that are doing it differently, like so that they have to pay taxes on the facilities. So it's a tough a tough one, actually.
Councillor Azan.
Two questions. One, in relation to this, if it was found that, one question is for Councillor Harrison. If a facility was found to be entirely providing dementia support services, unlike other private facilities, would that change his position in terms of his original motion? Through your worship.
Councillor Harrison, yeah.
Yeah, I think when we met with the people from Good Samaritan, we also met with, I had an opportunity to meet with private, the people who provide the private care. And there is definitely a discrepancy on what they feel level of care is. And so that's an interesting argument. I didn't feel, when we came out of the meeting with Good Samaritan, that the facility that is up on 15 is providing any different care than facilities like Hillside, the facility at 10th and 10th. And the people who own those private facilities, they make a very good point. They have to provide beds for similar patients with no provincial subsidy. So the subsidy at Hillside is 60% for the bed to start with. Then we're exempting their taxes, which the private facilities have to pay. So it's a very unfair playing field. And I don't pretend to be an expert on healthcare, but I am able to compare things that are quite similar. And it certainly seems that the economics of those two facilities are not the same. You can do something about it.
Ask the administrator, if this amendment passes, does the Good Samaritan have the opportunity to appeal?
Certainly, Your Worship, they can ask to speak to council, but this exemption bylaw must be adopted by the end of October.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Azan?
The second part that I didn't get to was, is there any way to take this one out pending either clarification on the matter of sort of the dementia level? It's just one of those things, like I said, it's kind of the point that almost will sway me one way or the other, but it's just, I don't know if that one item can be removed and voted on separately.
Your Worship, the bylaw can be, you can remove this line item from the bylaw and give it 3 readings, but you can't give it 3 readings. Like, it will be out of the bylaw,
right,
according to the motion.
But would a separate bylaw then be possible for this specific entry?
We'd have to have a special council meeting because it must be adopted before the end of the month.
Understood, okay. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Just make a point there. I think our next council meeting is probably the 22nd. And Treasurer pointed out October the 19th would require a special.
31st.
Is it 31st?
Could I just ask one more question? The exemptions we're talking about are 2008, 2009, 2010. So these are 3-year exemptions, is that right?
That's correct.
If we remove Good Samaritan from this year's tax exemption, could they come back next year and reapply?
They can reapply, yes, next year.
Fair enough.
Okay. Let's vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? The amendment is carried. The chair is paid. Now the motion as amended. Any further discussion? Mr. Cannon.
Yes. Motion amended.
As amended.
With that
The
one.
motion as we have it with the deletion of item 35.
I had one other one that I wanted to discuss.
I'm going to take a close eye for this
Yeah.
one.
Just keep Kevin out.
No, actually, I think Kevin can come in for that because unless he's a director.
He's a member. He's a member.
It doesn't matter.
Probably doesn't matter.
We went through that.
Councillor Flynn, do you do benefits for the golf club?
Yeah, so if you're going to talk about the golf.
I kind of thought that might happen.
Councillor Cannon.
I've always been curious